What's going on, everybody? Samuel Akem here, and I'm back with another one. I appreciate you guys for tapping into yet another Akem's analysis. I got a jam-packed show for you guys today, and I appreciate you guys for tapping in today. You've studied the playbook, memorized the stats, but are you ready for the biggest question of all? L&M Fine Jewelry has the perfect ring, the right advice, and the best prices in the Big Sky. When it's time to pop the question, run the winning play. Located on American Way in Missoula and Main Street in Kalispell. Please go check out L&M Fine Jewelry. If you're in the Missoula area, if you're in the Kalispell area, let them go take care of you and that special person. Let them pick that ring, and they'll help you out. They're there with you all along the way. They answer all the questions that you guys have. They have a great diamond selection, great ring selection. I mean, they are amazing. Michael and Landy, they do an amazing job. Love them. They've been so great to me and my wife. Let them be great to you guys as well. Back to football. We got a lot of games happen. Not a lot of games happening this week, but we got games happening this week. First things first, I wanted to touch on a comment I made about Elijah Tolbert of Montana last week. Eastern Illinois is where he's from. I mentioned that I thought he might have been like an army or a military guy. Not a military guy. Eastern Illinois. I'll move on from that. But I got a great show for you guys this week. We're going to be previewing UC Davis, Mercer, the big game of the week, the FCS kickoff. I'm very, 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 very excited about that game. But also, we got some other FCS games happening, Big Sky games happening. Idaho State at UNLV will be taking place. You got Coach, gosh, I'm blanking on their head coach's name. Coach Hawkins, Cody Hawkins. Coach Hawkins and the Idaho State taking on UNLV. Incarnate Word taking on Nicholls State. That's not a Big Sky matchup, but that is an FCS matchup. I believe that's a Southland matchup. And then Tarleton State versus Portland State. They will be playing as well. Tarleton State, one of the preseason, I believe they were in the top 10 of the preseason, FCS top 10. Incarnate Word was also in the preseason, FCS top 10. Idaho State, Big Sky team. But we got a lot happening on there. Coach Hauck mentioned had some comments with Colton Nuanez and Skyline Sports on the current state of college football. I want to read that and talk about it. Ace Sourwine and the crew overall at the Daily Drive dropped their 9 Griz grades, Montana's best players of the last 9 years. And I feel like honestly, I looked through the list and I did some research, and I really couldn't find any replacements that I could put in there. But there was one replacement that I would really, really have loved to see in that list. So we'll talk about that. Really good job from Ace Sourwine and those guys. We're going to talk about the ranked matchups happening in the Big Sky for 2025 based on the Stats Perform Top 25 preseason poll. So we'll look at what teams have the most ranked matchups. It may come to a surprise that a certain team does not have that many ranked matchups as it stands now, but we'll get into that. Jake Gadden of CBS Sacramento is reporting that the Causeway Classic might be in jeopardy. We will talk about that. There was an article dropped by NCAA FCS talking about the 7 teams that could win their first title in 2025. So we'll briefly talk about that. And then we got some other topics. There's a really interesting topic. Bill Connolly dropped his SMP Plus rankings for the 2025 football season. And they kind of are very similar to the FCS Stats Perform preseason poll, but there's a little bit of differences in that. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And then some other topics that we may or may not get to, but I appreciate you guys for tapping into the channel. We got a great show for you guys today. Really big season coming on this year. Very, very interactive season with us this year. I'm very, very excited for this season. So I thank you guys for being along this journey with me, following my channel. I thank you guys for supporting the channel. We are very close to 2,000 subscribers. We're 100 subscribers away. So hit that subscribe button right now. Hit the like button right now. Leave me a comment down below, and we will get straight into it. Okay, the FCS kickoff is happening this week on Saturday. We finally have football to talk about. We're not talking about rankings. We're not talking about transfers. We're not talking about NIL. We're not talking about ball, folks. We're talking about you versus me. Are you better than me, man on man? Like, come on. Come on. What are we talking about? It's football season, man. So we got UC Davis playing Mercer, 2 playoff teams from the 2024 season. I'm very, very excited about this matchup. Mercer, I would say, was a defensive squad in 2024. Their offense wasn't great. And then UC Davis was definitely an offensive squad. Their defense wasn't great. But honestly, if you look at the 2024 statistics, Mercer was kind of upper tier in offense and defense. I think their offense, their total offense was a little better than what you might think. But then when you look at the other side of things, UC Davis, their offense was really, really good. They're some of the top ranks in the country offensively, but then defensively, UC Davis was not great at all. The numbers say that, the FCS stats say that, and obviously, you know, there's some teams that played a couple more games, some teams that played a couple less games, so those numbers may be skewed when you look at the end of the season FCS stats, and obviously I'm looking at scoring offense, scoring defense, total offense, and total defense. Those numbers may be a little bit skewed because you got to understand some of those teams don't make it to the playoffs, and then the teams that do make the playoffs, they're obviously getting touchdowns scored on them. They're obviously scoring touchdowns, so there could be some teams that were decent defensively in the regular season that show statistically better than some teams, but obviously stats, data, numbers, they tell a story. They don't tell the whole story. You got to do your research. You got to get into the numbers to really understand the data. And obviously we know UC Davis made it to the quarterfinals last year before losing to South Dakota. I'm very, was it South Dakota? I believe it was South Dakota. But I'm very, very excited about this matchup. UC Davis has some significant transfers coming back. Of those transfers, you got Sam Goligoski on the D-line. You got Rex Connors on the at safety. You got Porter Connors at linebacker. And then they brought in some transfers like Jacob Sick and Daryl Porter. They have Trent and they have returners coming back in Trent I don't know how to pronounce this last name. Trent Carade and Joey Carrillo. I don't want to really get into the players too much. UC Davis versus Mercer. Really the biggest question for me with UC Davis is what is their offense going to look like? I had all these numbers, this data. I had all these returning starters and everything pulled up. It's not really about that right now. What is that UC Davis offense going to look like? That's my question. You know, obviously Landon Larson, obviously Miles Hastings. They're losing a bunch of starters at the receiver position as well. Tight end position is pretty deep. Winston Williams, Ian. I'm blanking on his last name. Ian. Gosh, I have it in here somewhere. Ian Simpson. I wanted to say Simpson, but I thought that was wrong. I thought Ian Simpson was gone. Ian Simpson returning, Mitchell Dixon, and then obviously Winston Williams. They got a pretty good tight end position out there. The quarterback position is the question. I talked a little bit earlier, a couple of weeks ago, about potentially the freshman Caden Pennick starting. That was based on a comment made from the UC Davis head coach. A lot of people think maybe Grant Harper, who's a senior, will be the starter as well. I was just basically going off what the coach at UC Davis said. He said had they started a game, this was like a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago because they're playing that week 0. Had they played a game on that day in that first week of training camp, that freshman quarterback would have been their starter. Now, obviously, training camp is a long, grueling process. People are going to earn spots. People are going to lose spots. Grant Harper being the senior, he probably has the most experience. He played last year. We'll see how he's able to do. But they got a couple of options at quarterback. They got Grant Harper, they got Caden Pennick, and they got David Racer. We will see who comes out of the best of that group. I think in terms of returning talent, UC Davis is probably one of the better teams in the conference, in the Big Sky Conference, in terms of returning talent. When you just look at the Samuel Batus, the Winston Williams, the Rex and Porter Connors, you look at Sam Goligoski, who played good snaps in 2024. I mean, they got a lot of pieces coming back. They have a good offensive line coming back as well. So I think that bodes in their favor as well. As FCS Football Central says, the unit is anchored by 2 All-Big Sky selections in offensive tackle Eli Simonson and Ernesto Nava. At center, Zaire Collier was a breakout star on the offensive line, starting all 14 games as a sophomore. After transferring from Stony Brook, Jace Rodriguez started 14 games at left guard. Guard David Main also returns after starting 8 games, not allowing a sack and over 500 total snaps. So it really seems like UC Davis has their whole entire offensive line coming back. They got a lot of talent on that offensive line, and being able to run the ball is one of the biggest things that leads to wins and losses. And when you talk about this UC Davis squad, the quarterback position is a question mark. The running back position is a certain question mark. But in terms of what you want, like if you ever were going to rebuild a team or you ever were going to lose a lot of talent at quarterback, at running back, one thing you would love to have back is your offensive line. UC Davis has that in their offensive line coming back. So really, really excited for what they're able to do. Now, let's talk about their stats from the 2024 season. Their scoring offense was number 14, averaging 34.7 points per game. Their scoring defense was at number 32 at 23.07 points per game. Their total offense was number 5 at 468.4 yards per game. They were a high octane, gonna put up points. They're gonna move the ball. Tim Plow and that offensive staff, they do a ton. They move guys around, a lot of motion, a lot of eye candy, a lot of weapons as well, and they know how to use them. So they're getting the tight ends involved, they're getting the running backs involved, a lot of jet sweeps. I mean, they're doing a lot with that offense, and I love to watch it. But you look at their total defense, number 62 in the country. That's about middle of the pack in terms of defense. And they're giving up 361.6 yards per game. So defense is definitely where UC Davis needs to improve on. When we get to the Mercer side of things, let's first talk about the Mercer stats from 2024. In 2024, they had the number 16 scoring defense at 20.14 points per game. So that's really good. 20 points per game is pretty decent. If you can hold a team to 20 to 21 points, you got to tell your offense, you got to give us 3 scores. Honestly, that's not bad. We need 3-4 scores. We need 24 points out of you guys to win a game. If you're holding them to 20 points a game, that's decent, not great. A lot of the top defenses are better than that, obviously. Total defense for Mercer was number 20 in the country at 319.8 yards per game. At scoring offense, they were number 29 at 30.6 points per game. Honestly, a little better than what I thought Mercer was. And then their total offense was number 5 at 375.3 points per game. I think that might be wrong. Because I don't think Mercer was that good. And what stat were we looking at? We're looking at total offense. I feel like I might not have put a number in there because I don't think there's no way they were number 5, right? No, they weren't number 5. They were number 5. I think they were pretty far down on the list. That's why I hesitated right there. They were number 53, so I didn't put the 3 in there. So they were number 53 in total offense in 2023, and I might have had a number wrong in there as well. 375.3. Yeah, I got the number right. So number 53 in total offense at 375.3 points per game. So Mercer, not great in offense, better on defense. Obviously, they were able to put up points. They're number 29 in scoring offense, but in terms of gaining yardage and putting up points, it seems like their defense, what I think Mercer was really good at is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they were like top 10, top 15 in takeaways last year. So that's where I think they really start at. That's why you see their scoring offense at number 29, but you see their total offense at number 53. They were good at getting stops, getting turnovers, and getting short fields for their offense. Their offense was able to convert that into points, but they weren't really good at moving the ball down the field at a high level. So, really polar opposites in terms of what these teams were last year. Mercer, I would say, was a better defensive team, good at taking the ball away, not so great on offense. UC Davis on the other side of things, really, really good on offense, had a ton of weapons on offense, not so great on defense. So it's really good on good coming in this game. If UC Davis is able to return a good offense in 2025, good offense against Mercer. If they're able to return their defense, good on defense. Now, let's talk about some of the transfers for Mercer. Octavius Eisen out of Charleston Southern at running back. Darian King, Sanford at offensive line. Jamari Freeman, offensive line. Kevion Wellington at D-line. Tyler Murray at O-line. That's a Texas Tech transfer. Ethan McDowell, quarterback. Ronald Cooper, Georgia State. Defensive back, Fabian Scott. Defensive back, Blake Martin. Coastal Carolina, offensive line. Adonis McDaniel. Lenore Ryan, wide receiver. Dan Hicks, D-line. And Delano Marcellus, D-line. Now, when you look at the returning talent for Mercer, they do have their quarterback coming back. And they do have some second and third leading rushers returning. That's per FCS Football Central, CJ Miller and Micah Bell. They have a receiving threat, or played over 160 snaps and offers a dangerous receiving threat, 171 receiving yards. That's Tyrell Horde. Mercer, I think, like I've been saying, is a defensive squad. I'm excited. I mean, it's so tough with these preseason previews when you're looking at the week 1 or week 0 because you still don't know. You still haven't seen them. You want to just see them on the field. I really, if I'm being honest, I like UC Davis in this game because I like what they bring to the table in terms of offense, in terms of their offensive line. You expect UC Davis to be able to run the ball. They run a lot of G scheme, a lot of counter, a lot of power, downhill running game. I expect UC Davis to be very successful in terms of, when you think of offensive line, you want continuity. You want people that are able to work together. With UC Davis returning a lot of offensive line, a lot of talent on that offensive line, I see that they have a lot of continuity, and I expect them to be very successful in the run game. Put the tight ends and returning that tight end talent as well as that offensive line talent, that unit being able to work together in the run game. I see a lot of success from them. Now, obviously, the quarterback position is the question mark. I don't know if they plan on doing a 2 quarterback system, but I'm very interested to see what that looks like defensively. Another thing that stuck out to me was they have 2 returners at safety, Rex Connors and Jaden Stanley. Obviously, Rex Connors is an All-American, multiple-time All-Conference. I mean, he's the guy. They got a freshman in Drew Cofield who's maybe could make an impact, and then William Fowler and Boston Stovall on that defensive back. Now, cornerback, I didn't see a lot of I didn't put a lot of the information about their cornerbacks on here, but I think that is a question, a position of question for UC Davis is their defensive backs. And I'm gonna look this up real quick. so I can give you an answer on their defensive backs. But UC Davis, I think I would lean towards UC Davis in this game, just because of the talent offensively, defensively. I mean, I honestly want to be honest. I feel like I've been sleeping on UC Davis a little bit this offseason. I put them pretty low on my preseason poll. And then, when you go back and look at some of the things they have working for them, some of the transfers they brought in, some of the talent, I mean, their offensive line talent, I think UC Davis has a really, really good chance of not only being really good, but winning the conference and being that top team out of the Big Sky Conference, and maybe even, dare I say, challenging for a national championship. Now, I hesitate to say they could challenge for a national championship just because of the quarterback position. The quarterback position is such an important position. If you're starting a freshman, not to say you can't do it, it's going to be very tough for them to do it with a freshman starting quarterback. Now, if you start that senior, it could be tough as well because he doesn't have a ton of starting experience. I mean, we will see, man. But Mercer, UC Davis, I'm going to take UC Davis in that game. I think I like UC Davis in that game. Obviously, a whole lot has to happen for them to win that game. Not a whole lot has to happen, but we aren't there yet. Saturday is going to determine all of it, and we will see on Saturday. But UC Davis versus Mercer, I'm very excited about that game. The next game we have to look forward to is Idaho State versus UNLV. Obviously, this is an FCS versus FBS matchup. Idaho State was not a great team in 2024. They're hoping to turn that around in 2025. Obviously, when you think of Idaho State, they're a good offensive team. I believe they're able to put up points for the most part. Where they struggle at a lot of times is being able to stop people. You look at some of their better games. Northern Arizona, they lost 30-26. You look at Portland State, they lost 42-38. They beat Cal Poly 41-38. They lost to Montana State 37-17. Montana State was really, really good last year. Southern Utah, they beat, who Southern Utah was on the fringe of being a playoff team. If you want to look at a good win for Idaho State from 2024, it would be that Southern Utah game. Even Eastern Washington, they lost 77-42. They put up 42. Weber State, they won 43-35. So, I mean, when you look at some of these outputs, Idaho State is able to put up points. We don't have to get too deep into this game because I don't think Idaho State has a very, very high chance of winning this game. That is not to downplay Idaho State. We just know what happens in the FBS versus FCS matchups. Now, if they beat them, great. That'd be an amazing sign for the Big Sky. That'd be an amazing sign for Cody Hawkins and Idaho State. That'd be an amazing sign for everybody. But if I had to pick a team in that game, I'd pick UNLV. We're not going to spend too much time on that. Incarnate Word versus Nicholls State. Incarnate Word is obviously one of the top ranked teams coming into 2025. I believe they're sitting at, I'm gonna just look it up. So I'm correct in what I want to say. I believe Incarnate Word was 6th in the preseason poll. I'm pulling it up right now. Incarnate Word is 5 actually. So 5 in the preseason poll. They're playing against a Nicholls squad who was not very great in 2024. Nicholls did not do a lot out of that Southland Conference in 2024. Obviously, they're hoping to turn that around, but they were 4-8 in 2024. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4-8 in 2024. So they're definitely hoping to turn that around this year. They're not getting a great start to that and starting with Incarnate Word. Incarnate Word, I mean, they have probably one of the top receivers coming into this season in Jalen Waltall. Really, really good guy. I did a breakdown on his game. But Incarnate Word and Nicholls State, I would definitely pick Incarnate Word in that game. It's so hard to tell right now in terms of, because we don't have any data on these teams. So I'm really just giving you the matchups, some of the games to pay attention for. And Nicholls and Incarnate Word is one of those games to pay attention for. Obviously, I want to look at that game and maybe break that game down once they play. Obviously, at Skyline, we don't cover the Southland Conference a ton. But myself, I do like to break down a lot of those games. So Incarnate Word and Nicholls going to be an exciting game. I like Incarnate Word in that game, and I honestly like them as like a 2-touchdown favorite if I had to put a point total on it. Not necessarily a point total on it, but if I had to speak on where I think that game is headed, I would put Incarnate Word probably a 2-touchdown favorite in that game. We will see though. The game is going to be played on Saturday, and we'll get to see. Lastly, we got Tarleton State at Portland State. Tarleton preseason, I believe, number 9, number 10 in the preseason stats perform FCS poll. Tarleton State is what I believe becoming a staple at the FCS level. I know they've been in talks with potential move up, but I like the Texans Tarleton State is a very, very good football squad. They've been on the up and up. They had a really good receiver in Darius Cooper last year. I believe Tarleton State is one of the squads that is returning their quarterback this year as well. When you think about teams and talent and who could be good, who could not, who's who in the conference, in the subdivision, you think about that quarterback position. That's why NAU is looking pretty good this year because they return their quarterback. There's a lot of teams in the Big Sky that do not return their quarterbacks. And a lot of teams in the MVFC that do not return their quarterbacks as well. South Dakota State's not returning their quarterback. North Dakota State's not returning their quarterback. Montana State are not well, Montana kind of has a returning quarterback. He played a little bit. We will see. But there's a lot of teams without returning quarterbacks. So that is the question of that is the position of question. If I had to put a winner on this Tarleton State versus Portland State game, I would definitely say Tarleton State. I don't know what to expect from Portland State this year. I know they weren't great in 2024. They dropped a game against South Dakota that they didn't get to play, but for the most part, in the 11 games that they did play, they weren't very good. They went 3-8 last year, losing by multiple scores to most people. They played a close game against Idaho. They beat Idaho State actually in a close win by 4. They beat Sacramento State in a 20-point victory, and then they beat Northern Colorado in a 30-point victory. But all the other games they lost to Montana by 2 scores. They lost to Idaho by 2 scores. They lost to Montana State by 30. They lost to UC Davis by 1. That was a really close game for UC Davis. I mean, but when you look at them last year, they weren't very good. I don't know how much they lost their quarterback, so that's definitely not going to help. Portland State, they've been the bottom tier of the Big Sky for quite some time, and I don't really expect that to change this year. So when you're looking at this Tarleton State versus Portland State game, I would really look at Tarleton State winning by 2 to 3 scores. Now, it's the first game of the season, so nothing's going to be perfect. So even with that Incarnate Word and Nicholls State game, there is no telling what happens in that game. I do expect Nicholls or Incarnate Word to win that game, but, we will see. And then with Tarleton State and Portland State, we will see. But those are the 4 FCS games you got to look forward to this week. You got Mercer versus UC Davis. You have Idaho State at UNLV. You have Incarnate Word at Nicholls State. And then you have Tarleton State at Portland State. I will hopefully have an eye on all of them. I want to watch every game that's going on, and we will see. But you guys let me know what you guys think about those games. Obviously, UC Davis and Mercer is the big game that we have to look forward to. You guys let me know what you guys think about that down below, and I will move on. Okay, Bobby Hauck was talking to Colter Nuanez, I believe, at the Big Sky kickoff. This is when Coach Hauck made this statement. But he's talking about the state of college football and what are some of his thoughts on the state of college football. So I want to read the statement, and then we'll give our thoughts on it. Every once in a while, you get Griz football coach Bobby Hauck rolling on a subject he's thought extensively about. At the Big Sky kickoff, we got to talking about what he loved and didn't love about the current state of college football, Hauck on the parts that are driving him crazy. I think the non-football part has become not as much fun this day and age, Hauck said. It used to be that you would recruit and have a signing day, and then you have your team. And now, from January to August, it's nonstop. Right now, we have 4 signing periods in college football, which is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous because that has made this not a great profession. I think we are killing our assistant coaches across college football. We are killing our assistant coaches. We have to fix this. It's not a healthy environment. It's not good for our players. We have good dudes who are bought into what we are trying to accomplish, but that's not everywhere. The whole thing where guys don't play for the front of the jersey enough is kind of abhorrent in a team sport and for what college football should be. You even hear coaches talking about how they don't want to demand too much of their players because they will quit them. Well, we aren't going to fall into that trap, and our guys are believers. But that's not the way it is everywhere. I think we're doing a disservice to the whole enterprise from the individual they were trying to develop to the structure of college football. It's sad to see where it is right now, in my opinion. Coach Hauck is dead right with what he's saying. The multiple signing periods is crazy. What he means by they're killing their assistant coaches, head coaches are obviously on the recruiting trail. They do a little bit of recruiting. They'll do some in-home visits. I mean, I don't think Coach Stitt came to my in-home visit. I think he might have. Stitt might have came, and it might have been Ferreter and Stitt. But, head coaches do in-home visits. I don't know how much recruiting head coaches are doing. I think they're more so like phone calls, talking to the recruits, I don't know what coaches are doing in terms of recruiting. I know the reason I bring this up, I know assistant coaches do a ton in terms of recruiting. Each assistant coach has like an area that he's set to. And what it used to be was in some of those periods in the offseason, those coaches are on the road recruiting. Well, it seems like now these coaches are recruiting year round. Outside of the season, these coaches, and even during the season time, you got to do a little bit of recruiting as well. But outside of the season, these coaches are spending all their time recruiting. They're probably doing a ton of travel. I mean, it's killing these coaches. A lot of times at the FCS level, these assistant coaches aren't making a ton of money in itself. So you're not making a ton of money. You're not spending a lot of time with your family, and you're spending a ton of time on the road recruiting. It's crazy. And that's what Coach Hauck means by that non-football part. He is 100% right with that. And then you go to the second part of his statement where he's talking about guys don't play for the front of the jersey enough. He is 100% right. There are a ton of players, and Coach Hauck has built a great culture. And you say what you want about Coach Hauck, what you want about the way he does things, the way he might be a little too old school, which I think he is a little bit too old school. What he has done is to be able to create a culture where guys, if the guys are going to be around, they're going to be around for the right reasons. They're not going to stay around for the money. They're not going to stay around for the name on the back of the jersey. These guys are staying around for the name on the front of his jersey. And you heard that directly from Eli Gilman, and I believe it was on the Daily Drive. He was talking to Ace Alron on the Daily Drive, if I'm not mistaken. But he mentioned how, I had many opportunities to leave. I had a lot of people wanted me. There were people who wanted me to leave. There were people in the community who asked me if I was going to leave. I don't want to leave. I like what I got going on here at Montana. The University of Montana has been good to me. The community has been good to me. I mean, Eli Gilman is a direct reflection of how Coach Hauck wants his players to be and the type of guys he wants in the program. But you see a lot of guys these days who are playing for the name on the back of the jersey, which 100% of the time isn't necessarily wrong. I mean, when a guy gets in a situation where, he's getting a lot of money thrown at him and it's guaranteed money and, he may not in another situation have the opportunity to make that money, I have to look after the name on the back of the jersey. But for the most part, you want guys who are playing for the name on the front of the jersey, and it doesn't necessarily always seem to be that way. Coaches scared to demand too much of their players because they may quit. I mean, that is crazy, man. I mean, if I'm scared, if I push you that you're going to leave our school, that shouldn't be the case, man. That shouldn't be what these coaches are dealing with in college football. You should want to be here because you want to play for this school, because you want to play for this coach, because you want to be great. You shouldn't want to be here because, I want to be coddled into a position. I mean, anybody who gets a position given to them, you shouldn't feel respected giving that position given to you. You should want to earn your position. You should want to earn your keep. You should want to be respected in your role, not people looking down on you like, oh, he was given that spot, so why should we respect him? I don't know. It seems like a lot of times that's the way it is in sports today, is like these guys want to transfer and they want a guaranteed spot. They want guaranteed money. They want guaranteed opportunity. They want everything guaranteed, man. Nothing in life is guaranteed, and nothing in sports is guaranteed as well. So, I mean, Coach Hauck voicing his frustrations. You don't get to hear this from him often, but when you do, it's going to be a good soundbite. So, I love that Skyline Sports and Colton Nuanez got this quote from Coach Bobby Hauck. You guys let me know what you guys thought about his thoughts. Do you guys think college football is going off the rails? Do you guys feel for these assistant coaches? What do you guys think? You guys let me know in the comments down below, and I will move on. Okay, Ace Sour Wine, my one of my counterparts of the Big Sky, not Big Sky, of the tailgate show, the GSA tailgate show. Every week we're on the stage for home games. We're on the radio. For the away games, we're in the booth. Ace Sour Wine travels with the team, so he's not in the booth with me and Denny anymore, but we are at the radio station for all of the away games. But they did 9 Griz Greats, Montana's best players of the last 9 years. I like the list. I'm not going to lie. I like the list. I did go through the list, and I tried to poke some holes in it. I couldn't really poke any holes in it, to be honest, man. I was looking at the last 9 years. This list is pretty damn solid. I'm gonna be very honest with you. The 9 players they stated are the best 9 players from the last 9 years. They got Eli Gilman. He's set to break a ton of records if he stays healthy and stays at Montana for the next 2 years. He's going to break a ton of records. Eli Gilman, Junior Bergen, Alex Gubner, Samuel Akem, myself, Malik Flowers, Robbie Hauck, Samori Toure, Brandon Casey, and Dante Olson. One thing I wanted to point out about this list, man, Montana has had some really good receivers. Now, have they all been like the best receivers at receiving? Not necessarily, but you got me, Samori, Malik, and Junior. I mean, come on now. Montana has had some phenomenal receivers. And you're not even mentioning Jerry Louis McGee, who I didn't even think of. Now, I don't know who I would replace who I would put Jerry in as a replacement, because, if you're talking about returners and it's Jerry or Junior, there's no way you can't you got to put Junior on there. You got to put Junior on there. But I mean, could Jerry squeeze in there and maybe? I mean, I don't know, but I put two people on here who I feel maybe could have a role in this list. Now, the first person I put on this list as a replacement, I know who his replacement will be. But the second player, I don't know if he would even be on this list and who he could replace. But I think it's a name that maybe is an honorable mention. The first person who definitely deserves a place on this list, my friend Ace, is Justin Ford. I think you missed on Justin Ford. And no offense to Brandon Casey at all. At all. I would definitely put Justin Ford in here over Brandon Casey. I know Brandon Casey, multiple time first team all-conference, all-American. I mean, all the things. He had an amazing career at the University of Montana, and I'm not trying to take anything away from what Brandon Casey did. But Justin Ford had 9 interceptions, man. He had a stretch of games where he had an interception every game, man. I mean, what are we talking about? Justin Ford has to be on this list, man. Justin Ford, I'm spitting. I feel so serious about this. Justin Ford has to make this list. And this isn't even a biased selection. Obviously, I did play with Justin Ford for a year, but I feel like this is a player that deserves a spot on this list. What are his accolades? Unanimous first team All-American cornerback, Big Sky Newcomer of the Year, first team All-Big Sky cornerback, NCAA 2021 interception leader. So he led the NCAA in interceptions in 2021. I mean, that season alone is one of the best seasons in Montana history, one of the best seasons in FCS history. I mean, Justin Ford has to be on this list. And I'm talking to you, Ace. I know you I know you watch the channel. I appreciate you for watching the channel. Justin Ford got to be on here, brother. You got to be on here. Now, the second player I put on there is Marcus Knight. Big Sky Newcomer of the Year, Hero Sports All-American third team, Hero Sports Sophomore All-American first team, All Big Sky third team, Academic All Big Sky, set school records in rushing TDs in 23, in total TDs at 25, and points scored in a season at 150. I mean, I don't know who I would take off. And honestly, we might gotta hold off on Eli Gilman on this list right now to put in Marcus Knight. But I even said, I said for a reason, I don't know who I would replace on this list with Marcus Knight. I lean towards saying Malik or Eli. But I believe Malik even broke or tied a record. Yeah, he tied the FCS all-time kick return record. I mean, but Marcus got 3 school records, man. 3 school. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. And I'm not saying that it was easy for Ace to put this together. I mean, the list is dialed. The list is dialed. Make no mistake about it. This list is very dialed. But Marcus Knight and Justin Ford, man. Now, the one reason I would say that you could leave both these guys off is because both only had really one. I mean, Justin Ford was good in 2022. He was not great in 2022. He was he was the best, probably one of the best top 3 corners in the nation in 2021. Same for Marcus Knight. Marcus Knight was good in 2019, but then he got hurt the next year, and I don't think we ever really saw the Marcus Knight that we saw in 2019 after that season. So from that standpoint, I agree, but Marcus Knight was so good in 2019. I mean, damn, the last 9 years, he gotta be somewhere. I'd give Marcus Knight an honorable mention, but I definitely would replace Brandon Casey with Justin Ford. That's what I think. I think the list is very great. Eli Gilman, Junior Bergen, Alex Governor, Malik Flowers, Robbie Samori, Brandon Casey, and Dante Olson, myself. I think the list is very dialed. If you want to replace me with somebody, by all means. If you want to put Justin Ford or Marcus Knight in there for me, I'll be the sacrificial lamb. Take me off the list. Put those guys on there. Replace Justin with Brandon Casey. Replace myself with Marcus Knight. I'm okay with that. The list is good on its own, but those are 2 players that I thought of where I was like, they got to be in there. I looked at Dalton Sneed. I don't think he fits some of these numbers on here, but I think Dalton Sneed maybe have a case for like an honorable mention as well. There were some other players that I thought of, but really Justin Ford and Marcus Knight were 2 that stood out to me. You Griz fans, let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about the list? I myself think the list is very good, but if I could put 2 players in there, Justin Ford and Marcus Knight, I would. There might be some other players that I didn't look at that I wasn't thinking of that maybe could fit on this list, maybe some offensive line, maybe some D-line. I mean, there's probably some players. Jace Lewis probably has a strong case to be on this list as well. I don't know who you would take off to put on Jace Lewis, but I think Jace Lewis probably has an honorable mention case as well. You guys let me know in the comments what you think, and I will move on. Okay, got a quick topic here. Maybe not quick. I might go on a tangent, but I want to talk about ranked matchups in the Big Sky based on the stats performed top 25. So obviously the season's about to start, and we can only do this right now because the rankings are going to change. Some teams might drop out of the rankings, some teams might come into the rankings, and this is looking completely different. But as it stands right now, where are the ranked matchups for each Big Sky team, and what are the number of ranked matchups for each Big Sky team, and who are they? I went down the list earlier in the offseason. You guys remember I did I did the numbers. I don't know if I told you guys the numbers. I think I did talk about it on the channel, but I talked about strength of schedule and the teams that have the toughest to weakest strength of schedule in the conference. The toughest strength of schedule in the conference is Weber State per last year's data. So if you're looking at the way I did the strength of schedule is I looked at each team's opponents, and I looked at their opponent's winning percentage from the previous season. That dictated the strength of schedule. Obviously, some teams have FBS opponents, so it's a little skewed. I probably should have done strictly FCS opponents, but I didn't. We're looking at each team's strength of schedule. At number one on the list with the toughest strength of schedule based on winning percentage from 2024 was Weber State. The weakest strength of schedule based on winning percentage of 2024 was Idaho. And we're going to tell you who those ranked matchups are and all that stuff. So Weber State, they have 5 ranked matchups as it stands right now in 2024 and 2025. Those ranked matchups are UC Davis, Sac State, Montana, MSU, and NAU. All the playoff teams from the Big Sky in 2024. So, I mean, no surprise that Weber State is at the top of this list. They play every big playoff team from 2024. That's going to be a tough schedule. That's going to be a tough schedule for sure. I don't have high hopes for Weber State, but they play 5 ranked matchups. The reason I'm doing all this because it's going to get to a point. So stay locked in because it's a team that plays the least amount of ranked matchups in 2025, and I think it's pretty interesting. Cal Poly has 6 ranked matchups in 2025. Stephen F. Austin, Sac State, UC Davis, Montana State, and NAU. So there could be an argument there that Cal Poly might have the toughest strength of schedule. We're not going to go there right now. Let me actually go to my average win percentage list right here. Actually, so that's funny. Cal Poly and Weber State were tied for the exact same strength of schedule at 0.544. Toughest strength of schedule at 0.544. So no surprise to see Cal Poly has 6 ranked matchups for the 2025 season. Northern Colorado also has 6. They play South Dakota. They play Idaho, Sac State, UC Davis, MSU, and NAU. 5 ranked matchups in a row for Northern Colorado. I believe it's like they play Idaho, Sac State, UC Davis, MSU, and NAU. I believe they play all those teams in a row. That is a gauntlet. My goodness. They definitely have the toughest schedule in the entire Big Sky. I would say Northern Colorado has the toughest schedule in the entire Big Sky. They have 6 ranked matchups. They play 5 ranked matchups in a row. I mean, gauntlet. Similar to Portland State's schedule last year. Not as many ranked matchups in a row, but they had a ton of FBS games and then a ton of ranked matchups on their schedule as well. Montana State is 4th in strength of schedule in the Big Sky. At 4th toughest strength of schedule, mind you. They have South Dakota State at the beginning of the season, and they start the season with Oregon. So Oregon heavily skewed their data, but Montana State sits at 4th toughest strength of schedule. They have 4 ranked matchups in 2025. South Dakota State, NAU, UC Davis, and Montana. Idaho State is sitting at 5th toughest. 5 ranked matchups: Montana State, NAU, UC Davis, and Idaho. NAU sits at 1, 2, 3. I'm losing count. 4, 5, 6 toughest strength of schedule. They have 4 ranked matchups: Incarnate Word, Montana State, UC Davis, and Idaho. Eastern Washington sits at 7th toughest strength of schedule. They have 5 ranked matchups. They have Incarnate Word, Montana State, Idaho, Sac State, and Montana. Portland State sits at 8th toughest strength of schedule. 8th toughest strength of schedule. They have 5 ranked matchups: Tarleton State, NAU, Idaho, Sac State, and Montana. It's also, this kind of reminds me of like the SEC bias because, like a lot of those SEC teams get ranked so highly because of their strength of schedule, because of the preseason rankings. As it stands for the Big Sky, they have 6, I believe it's 6 ranked teams in the top 25. You got Montana State at 1, the first, 2, 3, 4, I believe it's 6, 5, and then NAU 6. Yeah, so Big Sky has 6 ranked teams in the preseason top 25. So that's obviously going to skew all the numbers. That's going to make their strength of schedule look tougher and all of that stuff. But we don't know how good these teams are right now. So take all of this with a grain of salt. But Portland State sits with 5. UC Davis at the 9th toughest strength of schedule has 5 ranked matchups. They play Mercer and the FCS opener. We talked about that earlier in the show. NAU, Idaho, MSU, and Sac State. Montana, this is the one. They are at 10th toughest strength of schedule. So they have one of the weaker strength of schedules in the entire Big Sky, and they play 3 ranked matchups in 2025. Those 3 ranked matchups are Idaho. They open up conference play with Idaho. Then they go to Sac State. Later on in the, Sac State might be coming here. They play Sac State, and then they play Montana State at home. So 3 ranked matchups, Idaho, Sac State, and MSU. So that is why a couple of weeks ago, I think it was last week or the week before, I was talking about Montana, and I said Montana at worst needs to be an 8-4 football team. Not because they're that good, not because they have all the talent, not because their opponents, it's because of their strength of schedule. Their strength of schedule is not very strong. Montana is an 8-win football team at minimum. At minimum. If they are who they say are, they're an 8, and I really think at minimum they got to be a 9-win football team at minimum. Their schedule is so favorable. North Dakota, Indiana State, and Central Washington make up part of their non-conference schedule. And then I can't remember who rounds it out, but I'll get you that answer right now. Central Washington, North Dakota, Indiana State, and then they play another Sacred Heart later on in the season. Yeah, they play Sacred Heart in October. But, they're non-conference. Central Washington, North Dakota, and Indiana State, all at home. You can't lose those. Montana has 8 home games. That's another reason. 8 home games, you should have at least 8 wins if you got 8 home games. Now, obviously, we know they're going to play some tough teams at home. They go to Sac State this year, and then Montana State comes here. But the games that they have on the road are Sac State. They go to Weber. They go to Portland, and they go to Idaho State. So Pocatello, they're going to Sac. They're going to Ogden, and they're going to Portland. Weber and Portland should be wins. Idaho State, Pocatello should be wins. The only up in the air the home game they have, or a road game they have, is Sac State. This team has to be an 8 to 9 win football team. I'm not trying to harp on this point, but I know I'm harping on this point. 3 ranked matchups as it stands right now for 2025. And if you really look at it, do you think North Dakota? I think North Dakota could potentially be ranked maybe after a week or 2. Maybe. I don't see that, but maybe. Indiana State, I don't see them being ranked. Idaho, they're already ranked. Idaho State, I don't necessarily see them being ranked. They could be. I don't see that. Cal Poly, I don't see that. Sacred Heart, I don't see that. Sac State is ranked currently. Weber State, they could sneak in there. I don't really see it. They haven't been the same since Jay Hill left. Eastern Washington, they could definitely be ranked. They got some talent, but we will see. Montana gets them at home. Portland State, I don't see them being ranked. And Montana State, I see them being ranked all season. So, where the rankings are right now, I see the teams being ranked. I don't see them getting some more ranked teams sneaked into their schedule. Their schedule is what the schedule is. Montana has to be an 8 to 9 win football team this year. And if they really are a national championship contender with the schedule that they have, Montana should be a 10 to 11 win football team in 2025. I'm being very, very honest with you. We're going to finish this list real quick. At 11th toughest strength of schedule is Sac State with 4 ranked matchups. South Dakota State, Montana, Idaho, and UC Davis. And then at 4th, at the weakest strength of schedule in the conference is Idaho. They have 4 ranked matchups: Montana, NAU, UC Davis, and Sac State. So the average number of ranked games for Big Sky teams in 2025 is 4.7. So almost an average of 4 to 5 ranked games for each Big Sky team in 2025. Montana has 3. They have a very favorable schedule. I don't want to harp on it anymore. You guys let me know what you guys think in the comments about that down below, and I will move on. Okay. Jake Gadden of CBS Sacramento is reporting that the Causeway Classic could be in jeopardy. Now, what is the Causeway Classic? The Causeway Classic is the game against UC Davis and Sacramento State. They play their rivalry game to finish the season every year. It seems like it's a back and forth rivalry. It doesn't, I don't know the history of the rivalry, but I know, I've seen Sac State win the rivalry. I've seen UC Davis win the rivalry. UC Davis won it in 2024. But it wasn't like a blowout, which kind of surprised you based on how good UC Davis was and how bad Sac State was. It was a closer game than some would probably have thought, but that's what happens in rivalries. That's why you play the game. You don't talk about the game and talk about, oh, we're going to beat them this year. No, roll the ball out there, start the clock, and let's play. And let's find out who's better. That's why you play the rivalries, because it's always different in a rivalry game. Causeway Classic may be in jeopardy. Why? The 71st meeting between UC Davis and Sac State could be the final time these two rival schools face off in football for the foreseeable future. With the Hornets leaving the Big Sky Conference, the annual matchup has to move to a non-conference game. Sac State wants to continue to play the rivalry game next year. UC Davis has a full non-conference slate in 2026 and refuses to cancel their current matchups against SMU, San Diego, and Stetson. That is a report from Jake Gadden of CBS Sacramento. He covers he covers Sacramento State, I believe, but I think he also does. I know he covers Sacramento State. I believe he also does a little bit of coverage of the teams up there. But Jake Gadden, great reporting. Man, the Causeway Classic. What's going on? Obviously, we all know Sac State is leaving the Big Sky in 2026. They are going to be an independent, an FCS independent. They're hoping to get to FBS independency. I don't know if that's necessarily the case right now. We do know they're going to be an FCS independent. The rest of their sports are going to the Big West Conference, and football will no longer be in the Big Sky. I wish they were staying in the Big Sky. They're not. We can't always get what we want. UC Davis, on the other hand of things, which I don't know why UC Davis would do this. They have a full non-conference slate in 2026 and refuse to cancel their current matchups. I don't know why they would do that. I mean, why wouldn't you want to play that rivalry? Especially if they become an FBS team, you want to have that team on your schedule. I mean, you want to have that because if you get the opportunity to beat them as an FBS team, that's just more being able to talk smack on your rival, being able to talk smack on your little brother. I don't know how the rivalry goes in the Causeway Classic, but I mean, this is scary. It's not scary because, like, obviously things happen, but it just sucks to see a good rivalry game in the Big Sky go away. Hopefully they're able to find a way. I mean, it doesn't seem like it'll be paid in 2026 based on the information that we have currently. Hopefully they can get it back going in 2027, or hopefully things can change for 2026 for them to play each other. I think one of the reasons why that game can't play also is because it used to be a conference game. It used to be UC Davis versus Sac State. They're going to play in conference. Now with Sac State leaving the conference, there's no guarantees that is going, it's not going to be a conference game because Sac State is not going to be in the conference. So with UC Davis refusing to change their non-conference slate, that sucks, man. That sucks. I would love to see that rivalry keep being played. Great reporting from Jake Gadden. We will see what goes on. Hopefully they can get it back going in 2027. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen in 2026. You guys can let me know what you think about that in the comments, and I will move on. The NCAA FCS wrote an article last week talking about the teams that they expect to be. Let me just pull up the article, and then I'll get into 7 potential first-time FCS champions in the 2025-2026 FCS season. Who are those 7 teams? Illinois State, Rhode Island, Sac State, South Dakota, Tarleton State, UC Davis, and Incarnate Word. 7 squads that could win their first title in 2025. Will they? We don't know. The games have not been played yet, but if I had to guess, I highlighted the 2 teams that I think could win their first title out of this entire list, and I really think the teams are UC Davis and South Dakota. UC Davis, I say them because they've been, a riser. At least last year they were a riser. They got a really good head coach there. They got offensive line. I can't stress enough, and they got good D-line talent coming back as well. Offensive line, D-line, the trenches, you're not going to do anything without the trenches. Go back and look at every team that has won a natty in the last 15, 20, in the history of football. Go back and look at all the national championships. What could they do well? Run the ball. They were successful on the ground. They could do things on the ground. I think UC Davis will be able to do that in 2025. I think that's something that could lend itself to their success in 2025. Another school, South Dakota. Now, South Dakota was expected to return a lot of offensive line talent. They had a couple of transfers during that spring window. I think they had 2 guys transfer out, maybe 3. I know 2 for sure. But they do return their quarterback, Aiden Bauman. Now, South Dakota is a squad that lost some significant talent. They had a couple of good receivers. They had Carter Bell and they had Karan Adams, both gone. They had those 3 offensive linemen transfer. They had Travis Tice transfer. Now, you hope that they can replace that talent with equal or better players or serviceable players in those positions, but you don't know. But if I had to pick 2 teams off of this list that I think could win their first title in 2025, it would be South Dakota and UC Davis. A dark horse for that would probably be Incarnate Word, just because they've been on the cusp for probably 3-4 years. They've been chopping at the bit to get up there. They haven't necessarily got up there, but they're very close. And I think they're a team that could potentially, can we talk about this for a second? Imagine if Cam Ward had stayed at Incarnate Word. What would that team have looked like, man? Are you kidding me? A first overall draft pick at an FCS school? Incarnate Word? Man, they could have been so good. But he went to better pastures, as he deserves, went to Washington State, then went to Miami, and ended up being the first overall pick, as he should have been. I think South Dakota, UC Davis are the most likely to win titles out of this list. I don't know if anybody on this list is going to win a title, but if I had to pick, it's South Dakota and UC Davis. I have high hopes for South Dakota, but I also am worried about South Dakota. I think they could be one of the better teams in the MVFC, but it's like, how do they replace that talent? Losing talent is such a big factor at the FCS level. Will South Dakota be able to replace their talent? We don't know. So we'll see. You guys let me know what you guys think about this list. Illinois State, Rhode Island, Sac State. And there was a little writing in there about Sac State. Like, why is Sac State on here? They were 3-9 last year. Brennan Marion, the talent they brought over, the quarterbacks, the 5 and 4 stars. I mean, all the talent they've got. It's impossible not to talk about Sac State. Now, we will find out in a couple of weeks how good Sac State is going to be. We certainly will. But they sit on this list as a potential national championship team that could win their first national title in 25. South Dakota, Tarleton State, UC Davis, and Incarnate Word. I really like all the names on this list, maybe outside of Rhode Island. I think all of these schools have a chance because I look at Tarleton State and I think they have a good chance as well. Not a good chance, but they have a chance to be there as well. But we will see. You guys let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below, and I will move on. Okay, I had some other topics that I potentially wanted to get into, but this one piques my interest the most. I had about 11, 12 topics that I wanted to get into today, but it was really going to be a process of elimination. We might have a Hail Mary at the end, but 2025 Bill Colony S&P Plus rankings compared to the Stats Perform Top 25 rankings. So the S&P rankings, what are they? The S&P Plus rankings, what are they? This is analytics, folks. So these are the numbers. This is data. We are not talking about X's and O's anymore. Obviously, the X's and O's goes into it, but these are analytics. This is big data that we're talking about in football. I've just now started to get into the analytics, like reading up on a lot of this stuff. I've seen a lot of it this offseason. I think Tim Rosario kind of leans on that a little bit as well. But as always, the S&P Plus is a tempo and opponent adjusted measure of college football efficiency. It is a predictive measure of the most sustainable and predictable aspects of football, not a resume ranking. And along those same lines, these projections aren't intended to be a guess at what the AP Top 25 will look like at the end of the year. These are simply early offseason power rankings based on the information we have been able to gather to date. So basically all the information you have available, maybe the data from last season, as well as transfer data, information that you have during the offseason. You don't have a ton of information, but you get information on these football teams during the offseason, and that's what compiles these S&P rankings. I got another quote for you. My original S&P, this is Bill Connolly talking. My original S&P ratings derived long ago were based on 2 measures, success rate and equivalent points per play. It was an attempt at an OPS style measure for football, a look at both efficiency and explosiveness. As so many things do, however, it has grown more complicated. In its current state, S&P Plus is based around the core concepts of the 5 factors of winning football: efficiency, explosiveness, field position, finishing drives, and turnovers. So that's a little breakdown on the S&P Plus rankings. If you guys want to get more, look up Bill Colony, look at S&P Plus rankings. You guys can find all the information on what this really is. But he gives a good breakdown here on the basics of the S&P Plus rankings. So what are the S&P Plus rankings, and how do they compare to the FCS Stats Perform Top 25 rankings? In the S&P Plus rankings, you got NDSU at number 1. In the Stats Perform, you got NDSU as number 1. S&P, MSU is 2. Stats Perform, MSU is 2. S&P, you got SDSU at 3. The Stats Perform, you have SDSU at 3. S&P, USD at 4. Stats, USD at 4. Now it starts to get interesting after number 4. The top 4 are pretty easy to rank. Next, you get interesting. At the S&P Plus rankings, you have Montana at number 5. Now, one thing that Tim Rosario said on Twitter that is interesting is he mentioned that this might take the previous 2 years of data into account. I did not read that, but Tim Rosario knows much more about this than I do, so I'm going to lean on him for a better understanding of this. If they're taking the last 2 years, you understand why Montana is at number 5 because they made the Natty in 2023. So that makes sense. In the Stats Perform, the number 5 was Incarnate Word. Mind you, Montana is at number 7 in the Stats Perform. On the S&P Plus, they're at number 5. At number 6, you got UC Davis in the S&P. At number 6 in the stats, you have Illinois State. Now, another thing to understand about the stats, the S&P is analytics. It's taking data that is readily available to on all these teams. It's taking data to rank these teams. For the Stats Perform Top 25, these are writers, reporters, people who cover the FCS. They are voting on that. But it's very interesting that the people who cover the game and the data are pretty close in rankings. there are some outliers, and we're going to get into that as well. At number 7 on the S&P, you have U Incarnate Word. At number 7 in the stats, you have Montana. At number 8 in the S&P, you have Mercer. At number 8 in the stats, you have UC Davis. At number 9 in the S&P, you have Illinois State. At number 9 in the stats, you have Rhode Island. At number 10 in the S&P, you have Idaho. At number 10 in the stats, you have Tarleton. And funny enough, Tarleton's a pretty decent outlier. Tarleton in this, or they're not a decent outlier. The biggest outlier, let me just get to it. The biggest outlier in this data is Sac State. Sac State is ranked at 15 in the stats perform, and they're ranked 24 in the S&P. Now, I don't know if you put more weight into the writers and journalists who are voting on this, or if you put more weight into the data. Some people value analytics. Some people don't give a damn about analytics. Some people value the opinions of the writers and people who are covering these teams, which I would probably put more weight into. They're looking at the data. They're the ones covering the teams. Those beat reporters, do not sleep on a beat reporter. They are on the beat for a reason. They are covering this team, like Frank Gagola of 406 Montana. He does a great job covering the Griz, and he is a beat reporter who is on the beat daily. He is at every practice that is open to the media, and he's going to be there faithfully covering these teams. He does a great job. So in terms of people who vote on the stats perform, I would probably put more weight into the stats perform than I would these S&P Plus rankings, but don't sleep on analytics as well. I think you got to find a happy medium between both. But it is funny that the data says Sac State's not that good, but the writers and reporters are saying, we think Sac State may be decent. I don't know either way. I'm interested to see how it's going to fall out. Number 11 is Mercer, or number 11 is Villanova in the S&P, and number 11 in the stats perform is Mercer. Number 12 in the S&P is URI. Number 12 in the stats perform is Idaho. Number 13 in the S&P is Tarleton. Number 13 in the stats perform is Villanova. 14 in the S&P is Harvard. That's another thing that I wanted to touch on, another outlier. And I actually had these notes at the bottom. 2 Ivy Leagues in the S&P, despite none being in the stats perform top 25. Now, mind you, this is data, and I mentioned always, data tells part of the story. It's not the whole story. You got to do your research to get the full story. And the full story with the Harvard and the Ivy Leagues being in there is they only play 10 games, folks, and they do not play in the playoffs. So their data, they have a smaller sample size of data opposed to some of these other teams. And when looking at the data, these Ivy Leagues probably look like pretty decent football teams, but they're not playing in the playoffs. They're not playing more than 10 games. So their data is, you got a limited sample size. So that is the reason why Harvard is probably Harvard and Dartmouth. Dartmouth was 25 in the S&P. Harvard was 14 in the S&P. That's probably a reason why you see those Ivy Leagues in there, 100%. Let's go on. 15 in the S&P is UT Martin. 15 in the S&P is Sacramento State. That is interesting as well, because I don't think UT Martin did not even make the stats perform top 25. But if you look back at the last 2 years, playoffs wise, I believe UT Martin has been a playoff team the last 2 seasons. I believe last year they lost to Montana State. The year before, I can't remember, but I believe UT Martin, they might have lost to like a Lafayette, or I can't remember, but I believe UT Martin has been a playoff team the last 2 years. So it's kind of interesting to see them be, and it also gives value to what Tim Rosario said once again, that the S&P is taking the last 2 seasons and the stats perform is just looking at the immediate last season. Not in the stats perform. They are number 15 in the S&P. Number 16 is NAU in the S&P. Number 16 in the stats perform is Abilene Christian. Number 17 is Monmouth in the S&P. Number 17 in the stats is Jackson State. Number 18 in the S&P is ACU. Number 18 in stats is Western Carolina. Another one. Western Carolina is not in the S&P. Western Carolina is 18 in the stats perform. Another outlier. What does the data know that we don't, or what do the writers know that, what do the writers, reporters, and journalists know that the data is not telling? Clearly, the data is not telling a story that is clearly there, but we don't have to get into that. Number 19 is Jackson State in the S&P. Number 19 in the stats is Northern Arizona. Number 20 is Stephen F. Austin in the S&P. Number 20 in the stats is SIU, or Southern Illinois. Another one, Southern Illinois 20. That's the where you get to see a lot of these outliers, is like I don't believe Southern Illinois is not in the S&P data, at least for the top 25, and they're in the stats. So once again, what do those writers know? They were a 4-8 team last year, and that's really where you see the outliers of some of the teams who weren't great last year, like the Sac States, like the Incarnate Word, or like the Southern Illinois, who weren't very great last year. But the journalists, writers, and the people who vote on the stats perform, they have high hopes for these teams in 2025. So we will see. At 21, you got UT Chattanooga in the S&P. At 21, you got Tennessee Tech in the stats. At 22, you got Yale. Oh, wait. I didn't even look at the data correctly, man. There's 3 Ivy League schools in the S&P. 3. Dartmouth, Yale, and Harvard. I completely skipped over Yale in the S&P as an Ivy League. 3 Ivy League schools in the S&P, man. I mean, definitely, the point I made still stands. They only play 10 games. They don't play the playoffs. Their data size, their sample size is smaller. That is a direct reflection as to why their data looks the way it does. So yeah. Let's finish up though. 22 is 22 is Yale. 22 in the S&P. 22 in the stats is Monmouth. 23 is SEMO in the S&P. 23 in the stats is Stephen F. Austin. 24 is Sac State. 24 in the stats is Stony Brook, and 25 is Dartmouth, and 25 in the stats is Richmond. So obviously, like I talked about, data gives some of the story. It doesn't give the whole story. I think this S&P is very interesting because it does give a data-driven approach to giving us answers as to who are the good teams and who are the bad teams. I was reading on some of the article he wrote on SB Nation, and he was breaking down the numbers and saying like the S&P Plus rankings have a hit rate about 51 to 54%, which is he said it's better than Vegas, or it beats Vegas 51 to 54% of the time. I'm not really big into like the numbers in terms of all that stuff. I need to be better about the analytics about that, but it seems like the S&P rankings is a pretty solid ranking in terms of knowing what teams are good and what teams aren't. So take it with a grain of salt if you want, but that is how the S&P rankings relates to the stats perform. A couple of outliers in there. You guys let me know what you guys think of that in the comments down below, and I will move on. Okay, we're not going to get into our last couple of topics, but there is a topic I wanted to bring up. Efton Chism is moving up the rankings at the wide receiver of the Patriots wide receiver ranks. He's moving up. Very exciting. Eastern Washington receiver, broke some records at Eastern Washington, took his talents to the NFL, and he has been absolutely balling. They said he's staying late. They said he's doing the little things right, and he's looking amazing. Elliott Wolf says Patriots rookie wide receiver Efton Chism meets with wide receivers coach Todd Downing at 5 a.m. every single day. He's in there every day with Todd Downing at like 5 o'clock in the morning. The fruits of his labor are paying off. We are excited about him. That was a quote from one of the coaches. I think it was Elliott Wolf. He's like GM. I think he's the GM of the Patriots. That's what he had to say about Efton Chism. I'm very excited to see him. They're saying he's a lock for the 53. Nothing is set in stone. Obviously, he's had 2 really, really good preseason games. He had 6 for 71 yesterday. I'm recording this on Sunday. Yesterday on Saturday, he had 6 for 71 and a touchdown. The first game, I believe he had 5 or 6 for 50 and a touchdown as well. His touchdown was on the same play both times, a mesh route. But very, very exciting news for Efton Chism. I mean, a Big Sky guy, an Eastern Washington guy. They weren't the best last year, but he was a dog, one of the top 5 receivers in the country, FCS-wise last year. And, you know, he is exactly what Josh McDaniels could use in his system. So excited to see him do well. You guys let me know in the comments what you guys think about Efton Chism. Some of you Eastern Washington fans, if you're paying attention, let me know what you guys think about him, and I will move on. Okay, we went a little bit over an hour today, but I want to thank you guys for tapping into the channel. Football season is about to start. I'm very, 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 very excited. We will have game breakdowns next week. We will be breaking down UC Davis and Mercer. I would also like to break down Tarleton State, and not Tarleton. I would also like to break down Incarnate Word and Nicholls State. If you guys want me to break down Idaho State and UNLV and Tarleton State and Portland State, I will. One of the reasons why I would probably break down Tarleton State and Portland State, and I know I covered the Big Sky, but not necessarily get a good look at Portland State, but to get a better look at Tarleton State, I would really love to break that game down. But UC Davis and Mercer, I will be getting into that breakdown. So if you guys want me to break down Idaho State, UNLV, or any of those other games, let me know in the comments, and I will get into that. But very, very excited to break down UC Davis, Mercer. You guys let me know what you guys think about that. I thank you guys for tapping in. We are 100 subscribers from 2,000. Tell your friend to subscribe. Tell your mom to subscribe. Tell your brother to subscribe. Tell your uncle. Tell your auntie. Subscribe to the channel. come tap into Samuel Akem's analysis, my breakdowns, all of it. I appreciate all the support of my channel. I thank you guys for showing love. Make sure you guys come check us out at the GSA Tailgate Show. I'm on every week on the stage with Ace and Denny Bedard. We do a great job previewing the Griz games. Got some other good things planned this year, so stay tuned for that as well. But I'm very, very excited for the football season. I thank you guys for supporting. I thank you guys for all the love. Thank you guys for all the comments. Thank you guys for everything. Let me know if there's anything you guys want me to get into this season. If you guys want me to look at anything on a weekly basis, let me know. If there's any segments that you guys think I need to do during the season, please let me know. But it's going to be a very exciting season. I'm very excited. I can't wait to stop talking about the football and start breaking down the football. I hate this preseason period because, you know, like, I just want to look at the games. I just want to look at the data. I want to look at the numbers. I want to look at the stats. I want to look at how you look on film. I want to look at how you play the game. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are similar to me in that fact. I'm so excited. I'm spitting a little bit on myself, but thank you guys so much for tapping into the channel. I can't thank you guys how much, I can't tell you guys how much I'm thankful for the support and love that I get. My channel has grown so much, and we are going to grow so much more this year. I want to get to 5,000 subscribers before the end of the football season. I know that's a big number, but, you know, I'm dropping videos daily. I'm growing the channel. Rate That Route, looking at a little bit more NFL football. Obviously, some of you guys might not give a damn about that, but Rate That Route. I'm a former receiver. I love route running, and I love good routes. So go tap into the Rate That Route series. I've been doing it for probably close to a month at this point. So let me know what you guys think about that. Give me your comments in the comment section below. I thank you guys for tapping in. I will catch you guys next week for talking about UC Davis Mercer. We'll be talking about Sac State. We'll be talking about UC Davis Mercer next week. We'll be talking about Incarnate Word, Nicholls State. We'll be talking about Idaho State, UNLV. And we'll be talking about Tarleton State and Portland State. But most importantly, we'll be talking about UC Davis Mercer. So I will see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much for tapping into the channel. See you later.